Okay, so hello guys, welcome to the NPTEL Week 7 live session, problem solving session for the course Introduction to Semiconductor Devices, which is being conducted by Professor Naresh Kumar Imani. Just to introduce myself again, I am Soham Lokote, currently a third year PhD student at IISc Bangalore, and my research area is mostly in the analog and RF circuit design for the radars, especially of the radars which are being made for vital signs monitoring, that is heart rate and breathing rate. So the flow of the today's session will be like this. We will be solving a few conceptual questions just to brush up our basics, and then we will move on to two previous gate problems that had occurred in 2014 and 2016, if I remember the year correctly, and then we will solve few numerical questions. And again, I want this session to be interactive, so please unmute yourself, and whenever you have the doubt and whenever you have the suggestion, whenever I am asking question, I kindly request you to please be very interactive in this session. So this is the first conceptual problem. This is a very easy problem. You can easily solve it from the lecture material as well. So what has been given is that this is the diagram of the MOS capacitor, the charge density diagram that has been given to me, and what has been asked is like to choose which of the following thing is the correct E-field plot for the given charge diagram, right? So now can any one of you unmute yourself and please tell me which of these following four options do you think is the correct E-field plot for the given charge density diagram?
B.
Sorry? I was not able to hear you. Can you repeat again? Option B, yeah, correct. Somebody had said option B, so it's absolutely correct. You know, there is a positive charge density that is present at this end. So it is just like what you can say, it's a delta function, right? So when you integrate this delta function, right? So when you integrate it, you are going to get a unit step function. So that's why you have a sudden jump over here, right? And the moment if you go over there on this side, since there is a discontinuity, there is a boundary condition, right? On one side there is epsilon ox and on one side there is epsilon si, correct? So because of this discontinuity, the only thing that is going to be continuous is the displacement, what you can say, the flux density. The electric fields are not going to be continuous because across the interface the electric fields are in perpendicular direction across the interface, right? So we have to apply that what you can say, epsilon ox into T ox equal to epsilon si into T of the depletion width, right? Maybe XD I can write, right? So we have to apply this. So that's why you are able to see there is some discontinuity over here, and since the charge density is negative over here, when we integrate this negative thing, you will be seeing that there is a negative slope in the electric field, right? So the option B is correct. And let's even find out the potential diagram from here itself. So as you know, there is a unit step function at this point, right? And as you know, V is nothing but negative of integral of electric field, correct? So since I have a unit step function, let's say this is my x equal to 0, correct? Since I have a unit step function that is present at x equal to 0, so the moment I integrate it, right, it will become a ramp function, correct? But this ramp will have a negative sign associated with it, which is present outside this integral, correct? So if I just draw this as x equal to 0, then the unit step function that I had, actually it will become like a ramp function, correct? Let's say this is another point, let's say this is the axis point itself, right? So now after I have this decreasing ramp function over here, now I have to again integrate this ramp function that is present in the electric field, correct? The moment I integrate the another ramp function with the negative sign, I will get a parabola, right? It is more like a y is equal to minus xy kind of parabola, right? So now it will become something like this, correct? It will have some shape like this, and after that it will become a constant, right? So this is a ramp and this is a parabola, correct? So the potential function should look something like this. So let's see. So the option number B is correct. So someone had said it. Oh, not option A. The option number B is correct. Correct. Now, so I had just explained how the potential diagram will look like. Now let's see which option is correct, right? So I must have a ramp inside the oxide boundary, right? Inside the oxide. So there is a ramp in option A as well, and there is a ramp in option number C as well. Correct. But let's think about what happens at the silicon interface. What happens after the oxide? On the right side there is a silicon present, right? I just told you there should be a parabola, right? So we have a parabola over here also, and we have a parabola over here also. Now what is happening, as I can say, when you integrate the electric field, what is the potential? It is nothing but the area under the, what you can say, the electric field plot, right? So the area must add up continuously. See that this is what you can say, this is just like a unit step function, and there is a ramp over here, right? So the moment I keep on integrating, my value of the potential should increase continuously till this point, right? There is no way that my potential can decrease in between, because I'm keep on adding, I'm continuing to add area, I'm continuing to add up the area. So that's why my potential should add up continuously till this point. There is no way that the potential can decrease, right? So if you look over here, then the potential, as you can see, it is like this, correct? It is building up continuously, whereas as you can see over here, it is somehow it is going over here, and then it is going over here, right? So the potential should add up continuously, and as I already told you that the parabola shape should look something like this. The option number C is the correct option over here. And again, this was a easy question which you can even refer to the lecture materials, right? And so this is just a homework. Here we have just applied a negative charge at the, what you can say, at the metal. So we must have applied, what you can say, a negative voltage at the metal plate, right? So this is just a homework question for you guys, and I'm sure you will be able to easily do it, because there is nothing novel in this question again. And we will be coming to this question, so I will need help from you guys. So can you guys please tell me which among the first and second is looking like what you can say, a inversion? There is a inversion that is present on the silicon side. Which among the option 1 and option 2 is looking like there is an inversion? This is the first and this is the second. Where is it? Sorry? First, right? So first we have an inversion over here, and here we have a depletion, correct? So the option number first is the correct option. And now let's try to interpret the electric field plots. So this option number 2, we had just solved it, right? How its electric field is going to look like, and someone from you had mentioned it in the chat section that the diagram will look something like among the option number D or option number C, correct? Now we just have to determine which among this is the correct option. So can you guys please help me in solving this question? I just wanted to know which of the option number C and option number D corresponds to the first charge density plot and the second charge density plot, and how should I solve it? By the way, if you guys are confused between the plot number C and D, then this distance x and this distance y over here, so x is greater than y over here, right? So these plots are not same. So can you guys please help me which how to solve this question? Excuse me, who is this? Can you please unmute yourself? But something in the chat section. Due to the sheet charge, there will be more jump. Exactly, yeah, correct. So because of the sheet charge that is present over here, so there is a more jump over here. So for the first option, the option number D will be the correct one, and for the second one, the option number C will be the correct one, right? So this question we had already solved, and now the question that we have solved, it is this question, right? So for the first option, D is the correct one. So for the first option, D is the correct. Just a minute, something happened with my pen. Yeah. So for the first, D is the correct one, and for the second, C is the correct option, right? So this is the correct option, right? So very good. Now we will solve few previous year gate problems. So now this was the first question that had been asked in the GATE ECE 2014. So an ideal MOS capacitor has boron doping, so it is P type, right? So it's a P type. Now the concentration was given as 10 to the power 15. When a gate voltage is applied, the depletion region of width 0.5 micrometer is formed, correct? With us, they have also given us the surface. They have also given us the surface potential. What is happening? Yeah. They have also given us the surface potential of 0.2 volts, right? So given that this permittivity of free space is this and the relative permittivities of silicon and silicon dioxide are given, so what they are asking is the peak electric field in the oxide region, right? So one is ESI and one is EOX, right? So what they have asked is EOX, correct? So now can you guys help me, how should I proceed with the this question? Any hints from anyone? See, this is a GATE question, right? Many of you will be writing the GATE exam, so it will help. It will really help if you can throw some approach so that we can solve this question together.
EOX into epsilon ox.
Yeah, correct. So okay, somebody is saying epsilon SI into ESI. What happened to my pen here? Okay. Oh, just a minute. Yeah, epsilon SI into ESI is equal to epsilon ox into EOX, right? So somebody is telling me, okay, we won't find directly the EOX, we will first find the ESI, and using this formula we will find the EOX, right? Now my next question is, how are we going to find this ESI? Just look at the given things that are there and just tell me.
So we can use a formula for the electric field.
Yeah, the electric field with respect to what?
In the silicon, in the semiconductor part.
Okay, so you are saying like is basically your what is you have the charge this Q N A into XD, right? So okay, right? So now what he's saying is use this formula, right? You are saying like this?
Yes.
Okay, great, good. Now can I do one thing now? Instead of using this, can I see this formula? So from where you went, from charge density, correct? From charge density, just a minute. Guys, just a minute. From charge density, you went to electric field plot, correct? And from there we can go to potential, right? Now instead of going like this, can I go from here to here? See, the potential has already been given to me, right? And of course even the XD has been given to me, correct? So what I will be doing is like I will use this like the potential that is dropped across the near the surface, right? You know, this is nothing but you have the electric field diagram like this, right? So there is a EOX that is present, right? There is certain discontinuity and you have a ESI over here, right? And this is what, this is our XD, correct? So the integration of this part, correct? So the integration of this part that you are seeing over here, it should give me the potential that is dropped across the silicon, right? What you can say near the surface, that is the surface potential, right? So it is nothing but half into ESI into XD, correct? See, even the first approach is correct. I am just going through the second approach because I have calculated values with me. I don't want to give any wrong answer. So the guy who told me to use this approach, even his answer, even he will get a absolutely correct answer, correct? So yeah. So now the Shyes is given to me as what? 0.2, correct? Half is there, and coming to ESI now. Something is happening again with my pen here. Because just wait for a minute. Yeah, so we have half and we need to calculate the ESI, correct? And XD has been given to us, right? 0.5 into 10 to the power minus what you can say minus 6, correct? So now the minus 6, that is, this is present in okay, I won't write it in minus 6. I can just write this dimension as micrometers instead of placing it anywhere else. So if you just calculate it, then ESI will be coming out to be 0.8 volts. Since I have placed it as a micrometer itself, it will come as a micrometer. Correct? So this is the value of ESI that I got. And now as somebody had suggested to use this equation number 1, right? So put 2 in 1, correct? So EOX will become what? Epsilon SI upon epsilon OX into ESI, correct? So epsilon SI has been given to me, so it is what? It is 12 by 4 into ESI is what? 0.8, correct? Volts per micrometer. So the value of EOX that you will be getting will be nothing but 2.4 volts per micrometer, correct? So this is the value that we have. Now I just have one I just want to ensure whether my answer is correct or not, right? So I just want to compare ESI with the EOX, correct? So in this diagram you can clearly see, because the oxide's relative permittivity is lower as compared to what you can say, that of the silicon, right? So the electric field in the oxide, it should be higher compared to the electric field in the Si, because the product of epsilon and the electric field for Si as well as the oxide is remaining constant, right? So my ESI is less as compared to EOX, correct? So this is satisfying the sanity check that we have done. So the 2.4 volts per micrometer is looking like a correct answer, right? So if you guys have any doubt, then please ask. I will proceed to the next question. So now this question is this is a little bit tricky question. A voltage Vg is applied across a MOS capacitor with metal gate and p-type silicon substrate. They are present at room temperature, right? The inversion carrier density, I will explain what is this. So they are given it as number of carriers per unit area. For Vg is equal to 0.8 is given as 2 into 10 to the power 11. Again for Vg is equal to 1.3, they have given that inversion carrier density is 4 into 10 to the power 11, right? So you guys must be clear now, right, that as you are increasing the Vg, your inversion carrier density is increasing, right? So this is happening, this is only possible when you are operating in the inversion mode, right? So now they are asking what is the value of the inversion carrier density for Vg is equal to 1.8, right? So I will just draw a charge density diagram just to clear you what they are actually asking, right? So let's say, as you know, the Vg is always positive over here. So I have a positive line charge over here, right? So I can represent as Qm dash, right? Corresponding to that, first the region got depleted, correct? It reached the XD max value, right? And after it reached that maximum depletion width, it started to give electrons near this region, correct? So this is what the Q inversion charge is, and this depletion charge I can represent as Q depletion charge, right? And now why I am applying the dash over here? Because the dash represents the charge per unit area, okay? So because I will be dividing everywhere by area, so I am just writing it over here. So first we have what? Qm dash is what? Q inversion dash plus Q depletion dash, right? So this is the first point that I have, right? Now whatever voltage, I don't know what Vg I am applying, right? So that voltage that I am applying at the gate, it should drop only across the two things. First is the oxide, and the second thing is it is a surface potential, right? So the Vg should be equal to what? Vox plus psi s, correct? Now I just know one thing. If somehow I can incorporate this equation number 1 in equation number 2, my job will be done, because this is the quantity they have asked me to find, correct? So now I just need a small help from you guys. Can any one of you please tell me how can I incorporate the equation number 1 in equation number 2? Guys, any suggestions?
Can I use capacitance formula?
Yeah, exactly, correct. So what is Vox? So Vox is what? Qm dash upon Cox dash, right? See, this is the oxide that you have, and on both the sides you have the charges, right? So this charge is Qm dash, right? So you know Q is equal to Cv, correct? V is nothing but the voltage that will be dropped across the oxide. C is nothing but the capacitance that you will get because of the dielectric that is present, and Q is nothing but the charge that is present on the plates of the capacitor, right? So now the moment I use this, then what I get, Vox is nothing but the Qm dash, right? Just a minute. See, these charges should be in opposite magnitude, right? See, this is the positive and this is the negative, right? So there should be a negative sign that is present over here, right? So now there is, it is negative of Q inversion plus Q depletion dash divided by what? Cox dash, correct? So now the moment I have this, so I will put 3 into, so 3 into, correct? So now my Vg will become what? Minus of Q inversion by Cox dash minus Q depletion by Cox dash plus psi s, correct? So now this is the main equation that I have with me, correct? So this is the fourth equation that I will be representing, and as you know that you must have studied from the lectures as well, these last two terms that you are seeing over here, this is what? This is your threshold voltage, right? This is your threshold voltage, correct? So now I will be rewriting this equation number 4. So now if this is my threshold voltage, then what is going to look like is your Vg will be nothing but minus of Q inversion upon Cox dash plus Vth, correct? Hence your Q inversion dash will be nothing but minus of Cox dash into Vg minus Vth, correct? So we have found out the equation for the inversion carrier density, right? So let me denote this with equation number, what is the equation number? Equation number 5, correct? And please remember this equation, because this equation will act as a base for deriving the current equations in the MOSFET. I'm sure sir will also derive it, but please remember this because this is a very important equation, correct? Now what we are going to do, let's see what they have given us, right? So we will use the data that they have given us, right? So for two Vg values, Vg is equal to 0.8 and Vg is equal to 1.3, right? I know this value of the inversion carrier density, right? So let me put it and let me find out. I don't know the Cox dash and I don't know the Vth, correct? So I need to find these parameters to get the value of what you can say the Q inversion at a specified Vg. So what we are going to get, we are just going to get two equations, because two Vg values and two Q inversion values have been given to us. We will try to solve these equations to find out the Cox dash and the Vth value, and these values don't change with Vg, right? Correct? Because capacitance is will constant and your Vth is there, right? Vth is the inherent parameter that is present. So now what we are going to, we are just going to use this value. So for Vg is equal to 0.8, right? So when Vg was 0.8, they have given that the Q inversion charge is what? 2 into 10 to the power 11, correct? So this is my minus Cox dash. So this is the first part, and when the inversion carrier charge they have given us 4 into 10 to the power 11, they have given that the voltage that we had applied was 1.3 volts, correct? So now very easy way to solve this is, we will just divide the equation number A and B, right? So B divided by A, correct? So on the left hand side I will be just left with the 2, and here I will be left with what? 1.3 minus Vth upon 0.8 minus Vth, correct? So now I know the value of Vth, correct? So the Vth that you will be getting is 0.3 volts, correct? Now let's see what they have asked. So when I apply the Vg as 1.8 volts, what is the value of my inversion carrier density, right? So now let's apply 1.8 volts, right? So Q inversion at 1.8 volts will be nothing but minus Cox dash 1.8, and what is the value of Vth? It is nothing but 0.3, correct? So Q inversion at 1.8 volts will be nothing but minus of 1.5 times Cox prime, right? So this is the equation number maybe X, correct? Now I will do one thing, since I don't want to calculate the Cox prime again, I will again use what you can say one of the equation number A, right? So the equation, one of the equation number A and B, correct? So for Q inversion, when I had applied 0.8 volts as my gate voltage, it will come out to be minus of 0.5. I'm just substituting 0.3 volts in equation number A, right? VTH has 0.3 volts. So this will be left with minus of 0.5 times Cox prime, correct? So divide divide these two equations, correct? I know the charge, I know this value, right? And I don't know this value. So let's say this value is my X, correct? So X divided by, what is the inversion carrier density at 0.8 volts? It is 2 into 10 to the power 11. 2 into 10 to the power 11, right? And this is what? 1.5 by 0.5, correct? So this will come out to be simply 3, correct? So the inversion carrier density, right? Inversion carrier density, when I had applied 1.8 volts as my gate voltage, this will be simply nothing but 6 into 10 to the power 11 cm to the power minus 2. Guys, any doubts in this question? The approach is clear, right? I haven't done anything special. I have taken hints from you guys only. I have just solved these equations. I haven't done anything else.
So in chat box that was kind of good.
Okay. Will the inversion carrier density be equal to the majority carrier density of the semiconductor? Okay. Let me see. Yeah, see, I don't know exactly. See, my threshold voltage is 0.3 volts, right? So what you are saying is like, you know, when phi s becomes equal to 2 times phi f, correct? We know we are at the inversion, correct? But now I am doing, I am applying the Vg higher than this value, correct? Exactly at what you can say, exactly on the onset of this point where the phi s is equal to 2 phi f, you are correct that what you have written is
Right,
correct. So now, but I am not over there, right? I have went past that value because I have applied the gate voltage greater than the threshold voltage, correct? So I am not exactly at that point. If they have mentioned, I guess somebody wants to join. Let me see. Yeah. So if somebody, let's say they had mentioned that exactly at VTH you need to find, then your approach would have been correct, right? So I hope this this solves your doubt. So now we will move on to the next question. Yes, sir. Yeah, there are few numerical questions that I have with me, a few good numericals. So let's see. So again, they have given the MOS capacitor is there. We have a P-type we have a P-type substrate, right? And the following parameters have been given. So they have given us the doping concentration. They have given us the oxide thickness, the relative permittivity. They have also given that 1 volt has been applied at the gate, right? And there are no non-idealities. There are no trapped charges or something, right? Now, what they have asked from this is like there is first of all they have also given that the phi ms is 0. Correct? The work function of the metal and semiconductor is exactly equal. So now they have asked me to calculate the surface potential, right? So now I will just write formula. Now you guys help me in solving the question. Okay? So I just need to relate whatever has been given to me. See, Vg has been given to me, right? This is given, and phi s has been asked to me, right? I don't know this, so I need a formula which relates the gate voltage with the surface potential, right? So I will be using the Vg formula that you all know, and it is there in the lecture materials as well. 2q epsilon Si Na times psi s, correct, divided by Cox prime plus psi s, correct. Now what I need to do over here? Can you guys help me in solving the question? I know the Na, I know the epsilon Si, right? Do I know the Cox prime? No, I don't know the Cox prime, right? So let's calculate it. So let me say this is equation number 1. So Cox prime is what? It is nothing but our epsilon ox by Tox, correct? Note that this is per unit area, so that's why I have not written area over here, right? So this is 3.9 into 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 14, correct? And the Tox has been given as 1.1 nanometer, right? So this nanometer means 10 to the power minus 9 meters. So that means 10 to the power minus 7 centimeter. Correct? So if you calculate this value, then you are going to get what? 3.1377 into 10 to the power minus 6 farad per centimeter square. Correct? So now what I am going to do now is let me modify the equation number 1 a little bit. Vg is what? I will write it Vg as what you can say some beta times root psi s plus psi s. Correct? The value of beta is constant and we are able to find it, right? So now we need to solve the equation number 3, and somehow we need to find the value of psi s from this equation. So can you guys help me? How should I do it? Because there is a square root and there is a normal psi s variable that is present. So I don't want to use any what you can say, any software or MATLAB or something to solve this equation. I just want to solve it by hand, and it is solvable. So what should I do to solve this equation easily?
Psi s equal to x square.
Yeah, exactly correct. So psi s is equal to x square. This is what we can do first time, or let's say this is first method. Correct. Or the second thing that we can do is Vg minus psi s is your beta times root psi s. Correct. So if I square on both the sides, then what I will get, Vg minus psi s whole square will be nothing but beta square psi s. Correct. Can I use this second approach?
Right, sir.
Yeah, right. Okay, good. So now we will first find out the value of this beta that is present over here, right? So now let me find the value of beta. So let me write that thing again. So what was my beta? 2q epsilon si, right? Na times, oh psi s was not there because psi s we had taken outside, right? So this was the value of, so this was the beta. Now let me put it 2 into 1.6 into 10 power minus 19, right, into epsilon si is what, 11 point, oh shoot, what just happened, okay, 11.7 into what, 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 14, and doping concentration they had given me, right, 2.7 into 10 to the power 18, 2.7 into 10 to the power 18, right, divided by Cox prime we have just calculated, correct? So it's 3.1377 into 10 to the power minus 6, correct? So if you calculate, then the beta value that you are gonna get is 0.30144. Okay, so I will use the second approach now. What I had told you guys, so it will be what? So the Vg value has been given as 1 volts to me, correct? So now 1 volts will be equal to 0.30144 times root psi s plus psi s, correct? So now 1 minus psi s the whole square will be nothing but 0.090869 times psi s, correct? So if you expand this bracket, then you will be getting this thing, correct? 0.090869 times psi s. So if you rearrange this equation, then you will be getting like psi s square minus 2.090869 times psi s plus 1 will be equal to 0, correct? This is the quadratic equation that we have, and I hope you guys can easily solve it. I will just write the solution because we still have further numericals to do, right? So the psi s value that we will be getting is around 1.35028. This is the first value, and the second value that we are gonna get 0.740584. So these are the two values of psi s that I am gonna get, right? Now I have a confusion over here. Which of these values, let's say this is psi s1, this is psi s2, correct? So which of these value is the correct answer, right? Because if I had got a negative value somewhere, I know that the negative psi s is not possible because I have applied a positive potential at the gate, right? It's positive 1 volts. So the voltage that must be dropped across the oxide plus the voltage drop that happens near at the surface, right? So it should be equal to 1 volts. So there is no negative value over here. So can you guys please help me in eliminating one of these values? Vg is equal to 1 volts, right? So can you guys please help me which among these two options, that is psi s1 and psi s2, will be a correct answer and why? Yeah, somebody is saying second one. Yeah, can you please explain me the reason? Your answer is correct. Can you please explain me the reason? Depletion approximation. How did you get from depletion approximation this value is correct? If possible, can you unmute yourself? I just want to know your approach. Your answer is absolutely correct.
Is negative, right?
Sorry.
Because PV is negative.
What is negative?
No, sir, I'm wrong. Sorry.
Yeah, both the values are positive. See, okay, that person's mic is not working properly. It's okay. So, can anyone help me in? See, this answer is absolutely correct. Can you guys just help me in eliminating one of these? Why this is not a correct answer? Both the values are positive. Just think a little bit. I have given you a hint over here. VGS is equal to 1 volt. Any hints, guys? See, wrong answers are also welcome. It's not an issue. Okay, I will give you a final one hint. Then we
Because
will.
VG is positive. So,
Sorry?
VG is positive. So, firm level will shift down. That's why, right?
I didn't get. Can you repeat again?
As VG is positive,
VG is positive, yeah.
firm level. So, firm level will shift down.
Oh, your
So,
voice
that's why
is
that is.
your voice is breaking actually.
Yes, actually, studies will be less than negative. Firm level will be low when VG is positive.
VG is positive. So what is yeah? So what is gonna happen because of that?
I think that is why it's less as VG is 1 volt less than that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. Correct. Very good. VG is what? Vox plus psi s. Correct. So if this is my 1 volt, right? Then obviously this term should be less than that, right? So that's why we are selecting this 0.740584 as our answer. Correct. So very good. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Now we will be moving on to the next part of the question. So they have asked the electric field in the oxide, right? So now previously somebody had told me to use this, right? Epsilon SI ESI is equal to epsilon ox EOX, right? So this approach we had already seen in one of the gate questions that we had solved, right? Now I want to solve this question with a little bit what you can say a different approach. Let's not do this. Let's do opposite this time. First I will calculate E epsilon ox. This will be my first thing, and after that I want to calculate this as a second quantity, right? So so this is just another approach to solve the question, right? So now let's say I have MOS that is present over here, right? And this is what? This is TOX, correct? Now I told you, right, I want to calculate the EOX first, right? So now how can I calculate it? So this is very clear. This must be very clear to you that V is nothing but integration of minus E dx, correct? So now if I vary my x, like x is varying from, let's say this is 0 and this is TOX, correct? So if x is varying from 0 to TOX, right, my V will be varying from where to where? V is from here and V is from here, right? So this is nothing but V is varying from Vg to what? Psi s, correct? This is the potential that I will be getting over here, correct? So now Vg minus psi s is equal to what? Minus of integral E dx. So x is varying from 0 to TOX, right? Correct? So now this is just a normal thing, that routine thing that you guys will be getting. So you know Vg minus psi s is what? So Vg is what? Vox plus psi s, correct? So this is nothing but your Vox that you will be getting, right? So your ultimately what you're gonna get is your EOX will be nothing but Vox by TOX, and this is this is very simple, right? V is equal to V is nothing but ED, that you had studied in the high school physics, right? So this should not surprise you. And one more thing to note is that the electric field direction will be from left to right. Correct? It is from left to right because Vg is equal to 1 volt over here that we are applying, and here we have accumulated what you can say a positive QM. Correspondingly, there is going to be a depletion and maybe some inversion. So that's why electric field will be always directed in this direction. So if you have any confusion, then just know that electric field is from left to right. Don't worry about any negative signs as of now. Correct? So now what I'm going to do over here is that the first of all the Tox has been given to me, right? Now I just need to find the value of Vox. Correct? So now how can I find the value of Vox? See, I had just found out this value of Psi-S, right? Psi-S was what? 0.74. Correct? So now I know the Psi-S, I know the Vg, right? This is 1 volt, this is 0.74 volts. Correct? So hence if I calculate Vox, hence Vox is nothing but what? Vg minus Psi-S. Correct? This is nothing but 1 minus 0.74. So what is the value of Vox that I will be getting? It's nothing but 0.259416, right? So if you calculate if you put the exact value over here, then you will be getting this answer of Vox. Correct? This is nothing but volts. Correct? So now let me put this in this equation. Correct? So Eox will be nothing but 0.259416 divided by, what is that my value of Tox? 1.1 into 10 to the power minus 7, right? So hence Eox that you will be getting is what? 2.358 into 10 to the power 6 volts per centimeter. Correct? So this is the value of Eox that you will be getting. Now the next question is what? Es, right? So now as somebody had suggested me, I will be using this formula now. Correct? So what formula I will be using? Epsilon ox into Eox is what? Epsilon of silicon into Es that is present, right? So now how will I know the Es? Es will be now epsilon ox by epsilon Si into Eox, correct? Hence Es will be what? Oxide's permittivity is how much? 3.9. This is what? 11.7, correct? And now Eox I had already calculated, right? It's 2.358 into 10 to the power 6. 2.358 into 10 to the power 6 volts per centimeter, correct? Hence the Es that will be present over here, it will come out to be 7.86 into 10 to the power 5 volts per centimeter. Correct? So this is what I will be getting as my answer. Correct? Now I have again a sanity check over here. Right? See, we always know that that is since Eox is lesser as compared to ESI, our electric field in the oxide should always be higher, right, as compared to ES. Correct? So let's check the value of ES. ES is 7.86 into 10 to the power 5 and Eox is what? 2.35 into 10 to the power 6, right? So Eox is higher as compared to ES, so it is satisfying the sanity check that we know already, right? So hence it is looking like our answer is correct, right? Now coming to the next question, we want to calculate the depletion width, right? See, I already know the value of Psi-S, right? I already know the value of Psi-S, correct? So if I relate WD depletion width with Psi-S, my job will be done. Correct? So I will be using this formula which is relating the WD with Psi-S. Correct? So WD, as you can see, as you easily know, it is what? 2 epsilon Si upon QNA times Psi-S. Correct? So this is the value of the depletion width, right? So let me put out the values over here. 2 into what? 11.7 into 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 14. Now the value of Psi-S, I guess we had just calculated it, and it's what? 0.74054. 0.74054, right? Upon QNA. 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19. And what is the doping concentration that they had given? Let me check. See, they have given us 2.7 into 10 to the power 18, right? So 2.7 into 10 to the power 18, correct? Hence the value of depletion width, if you just calculate this value, then it is gonna come out to be 1.93 into 10 to the power minus 6 centimeter, or you can easily get it as 19.3 nanometers. Okay. Yeah, now moving to the next part of the question, what they have asked is the charge in the silicon QS in centimeter in coulombs per centimeter square. So what they are asking us is to calculate the charge per unit area that is present on the silicon side, right? So let me draw the charge density quickly over here. We have oxide, we have silicon, we have this, we have a plus QM that has been applied over here, correct? Corresponding to that, we got what you can say a depletion region, correct? And this is Q depletion, correct? Now what was, see, this is a acceptor, right? This is a p-type semiconductor, right? So now what is the charge value over here? Minus Q times Na, correct? But this is what? This is rho v, correct? They are asking me in coulombs per centimeter square, so I need to multiply it with this depletion width, correct? This is what xd. So I can clearly say that qm dash, which is present on the gate, it will be nothing but a minus of q depletion that is present on the silicon side, right? And it will be equal to what? Minus of q times Na into xd, correct? So now let's check whether we can actually calculate or not. See that we want to know the depletion width value. We had already calculated it in the last question. We know the doping concentration that is given in the question itself. So qm dash is equal to minus of q depletion dash, correct? It will be nothing but minus of 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 into 2.7 into 10 to the power 18. This is the given value. And let me check what is the value of xd. 1.93 into 10 to the power minus 6, correct? So the qm dash will be nothing but minus of q depletion dash. This will be equal to what? Minus of 8.3376 into 10 to the power minus 7 coulombs per centimeter square, right? Let me think about it. It should not have came negative. The qm dash cannot be negative, right? So let me do one thing. This should be positive over here. This cannot be negative. Why this cannot be negative? Because qm dash cannot be negative, right? I am applying a positive. See, Vg is equal to 1 volts, right? So the qm dash value cannot be negative. It must be positive. And the q depletion value should be negative because this positive qm dash should be balanced by the negative charge density that is present near the surface, right? So this is what we are getting. So the charge in the silicon, it will be what? So the qs will be nothing but q depletion. This will be equal to minus of 8.3376 into 10 to the power minus 7 coulombs per centimeter square, correct? So this is what they had asked in the question, right? And corresponding to that, our qm dash will be just a positive term, right? So this was another question. So we know the qg is nothing but qm and it is nothing but minus of qs. So it will be just a positive version of what we had calculated last time, correct? Into 10 to the power minus 7 coulombs per centimeter square, correct? So I hope this question was clear. If you guys have any doubts, then please proceed ahead. I will be moving to the next question. So what they are asking me now is they are asking me to calculate the voltage drop across the oxide. See, how can I calculate the voltage drop across the oxide? I know Vg, right? This gate voltage that I am applying, it should be dropped across the oxide and it should be dropped across the, what you can say, it should be equal to the sum of the drop across the oxide and the surface potential, right? So surface potential value we had calculated, it's 0.74, it's 1 volts, right? So just by subtracting, you will be getting the value of Vox, which will be nothing but 0.259416 volts, correct? I hope this question was clear. And yeah, now this is the main part. They are asking us to actually calculate the threshold voltage, right? So I will just write one equation and I will take help from you guys after that. So we know the gate voltage equation is what? In terms of psi s, right? 2q epsilon si Na into psi s divided by Cox prime, right? Plus psi s, right? So now this is the one equation that I have. And now can you guys please help me from this equation? How can I calculate the threshold voltage? Guys, please move quickly. We don't have much time. I still have one small question to solve. Can you tell me what is the condition on Shias so that this gate voltage will become threshold voltage? When do we say that we have reached the threshold voltage? Is there any condition on the Shias? This is your surface.
2 pi.
Yeah, exactly correct. So Shias must be equal to what? 2 phi f. Correct. But how can I calculate the phi f now? See, what is the phi f? Since this is a p-type semiconductor, right? So phi f. Sorry. How can I calculate the phi f? You were saying something.
From the doping. From doping.
Yeah, exactly. Correct. From the doping. Very good. So this is what kT by Q ln of Na by Ni. Correct. And what will be this? 0.0259 because it's a room temperature. Ln of what is Na? It has been given as 2.7 into 10 to the power 18. Right. And what is the intrinsic concentration? For the silicon, it's 1.5 into 10 to the power 10. Correct. So this would be coming as what? 0.492319 electron volts. Correct. So this is the value of phi f I know. Correct. So I just need to put psi s is equal to 2 phi f, and this will be what? This will be, I guess, 0.9846. Correct. This is the value of psi s that I have to put in equation number 1. Correct. So put in 1. Right. So now I will be just putting all the values. So when the psi s is 2 phi f, Vg becomes equal to Vth. Correct, because this is the definition of the threshold voltage, right? So as much as what you can say, near the surface your material should first invert and its concentration should be equal to what? The majority carriers that are present in the bulb, right? So now Vth will be equal to what? Root of 2 into Q is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 into 11.7 into 8.85 into 10 to the power minus 14. Now the psi s is what? 0.9846, correct, upon Cox prime. Cox prime, you remember, we had already calculated in, I guess, one of the questions. Let me go there. Yeah, see, this is the value of Cox, the equation number 2 that you are seeing, right? This is the value of Cox, correct? So I will be using this value. So what is the Cox prime? It is nothing but 3.1377 into 10 to the power minus 6, correct, and plus this 0.9846, correct. So now the value of threshold voltage, if you calculate this value, then it will come out to be 1.2837 volts, correct. So this is the value of threshold voltage that they had asked us to calculate. So this long question was over, but it was important because some variation in different type of question was there. Sorry, some variation in different sub questions was there. Now we will just have one very small question, and after that we will end the session. So now there is one trend, if you are familiar with the semiconductor industry, so there is one trend that we are actually currently replacing the SiO2, that is the silicon dioxide, with some higher dielectric constant materials, and this is especially true at lower technology nodes. See what we are doing at see, there is something called as a scaling. So you usually shrink the MOSFET dimension. You must have heard about the Moore's law, right? So the number of transistors every 18 months doubles up. So if I have area, then what he suggests is that let's say I am in particular year, let's say I am able to fit 10 transistors on that particular area, right? Now he suggests that after the 18 months, the technology must have moved so much that within the same area, I will be able to fit 10 into 2, that is 20 transistors, so, right? So to shrink, we are actually shrinking the MOSFET dimensions, right? And so correspondingly, the MOSFETs are becoming smaller, right? So now when you move so small that your channel length, that is the I don't know whether you have heard about this term, the channel length or the technology node. So in the MOSFETs that will be taught, that concept will come up, but I just wanted to show you why we are actually replacing this SiO2 material, right? So to understand this concept, that is one of the aspects of this concept, we will solve this numerical, correct? So what they have mentioned is that there is currently a great interest in replacing the silicon dioxide with the higher dielectric constant material, right? Different oxides are compared to SiO2 in terms of equivalent oxide thickness, right? So what is this EOT? So EOT is the thickness of SiO2 that would give the same capacitance per unit area, right? So if I replace the SiO2 material with this what you can say a higher dielectric constant material, right? So correspondingly my capacitance, what you can say, the capacitance is gonna change, because the capacitance per unit area is what, C dash is what, epsilon divided by thickness, right? Thickness of any oxide, right? Oxide may be HFO2 or SiO2, correct? So the moment the E changes, epsilon changes, my capacitance value is gonna change, right? But now what they are saying is like, if I replace this material with the SiO2, the corresponding thickness of the SiO2 that I will require to get this capacitance same as when I replace it with the new material, right? So this is what the meaning of the equivalent oxide thickness is, right? So now what they are asking is, first of all, they have given us the definition of equivalent oxide thickness, and they are asking what is the equivalent oxide thickness of 4 nanometer hafnium oxide. Now why hafnium oxide? Because just look at the dielectric constant of the hafnium oxide, it's 25, correct? It's higher than SiO2, right? Because SiO2's dielectric constant is what, 3.9, and we are replacing it directly with the 25, correct? So it is satisfying that we are currently there is a trend to replace SiO2 with a higher dielectric material, right? Now can you guys please help me? This is the last question. Can you guys please help me? How should I solve this question? Just look at this term, this thing. Just tell me the approach. What should I do? I will solve the question. See, they are just asking us if we replace this material, hafnium oxide is there, right? So what is THFO2? This is a thickness, right? So this is 4 nanometer. So simply they are asking, if we replace this material with SiO2, then what will be the thickness over here? How should I approach this question? This is the last question for today. Yeah, exactly, correct. We need to compare the capacitance for both, right? Very good. C of SiO2 per unit area will be equal to C of HFO2 per unit area, because in the definition of EOT itself they have mentioned EOT is the thickness of SiO2 that would give the same capacitance. So we have to just equate the capacitance, right? So this is what, E of SiO2 divided by T of SiO2, E of HFO2 divided by T of HFO2, correct? And now by the definition, EOT is the thickness of SiO2 that would give the same capacitance, right? So thickness of SiO2, this is my EOT, correct? So now by just rearranging, we will get as EOT is what, epsilon of SiO2 divided by epsilon of HFO2, correct, into thickness of HFO2, correct? So equivalent oxide thickness is what, epsilon of SiO2 is what, 3.9. Epsilon of HFO2 is what, 25, correct? If I write epsilon naught or epsilon naught over here, it is gonna get cancelled, so it doesn't matter. And the thickness is what, 4 nanometers, correct? So the equivalent oxide thickness, if you just solve it, it will come out to be 0.624 nanometer, correct? So what it is mentioning is like, let's say we have a metal over here, correct? Now, and we have this oxide with us, correct? Again we have a metal, correct? And again we have a thickness over here, right? So now it is saying that if you had used SiO2, then you would have required 0.624 nanometers of thickness, whereas in HFO2 you are actually requiring a 4 nanometer thickness, correct? So now coming to the reason, I told you we are going to replace SiO2 with HFO2, right? So now just look at the small dimension. This is so small that if you apply some gate voltage over here, right? So there is a MOS structure that you have, correct? O, S and M. Now what if I make this structure of oxide only this much? Correct? So this is my structure now. This is MOS and this oxide is so small, right? I am applying some charges over here. This will be, let's say, plus QM by applying some positive gate voltage. Now what is gonna happen over here is that there is a high probability that this whatever charges are present, they will just tunnel through the barrier, correct? Because this oxide thickness is so small. You must have heard about the tunneling, right? In the initial parts of the lecture, when we the sir had taught you about that what you can say, the Schrodinger's equation and everything, where he had told you the wave nature of the electrons, right? So he must have told you the concept of the tunneling, right? So this is where it is used now. So if I have such a small oxide thickness, correct, then there is a problem, because my gate, whatever voltage I am applying at the gate, there is a high probability that there will be a good amount of leakage current from the metal to semiconductor directly. The oxide, which was supposed to separate the metal and the semiconductor, since its thickness became so small, now there is a good possibility that I will have a tunneling current from that will leak through the gate and it will go to the semiconductor directly. Now why does this matter, right? So as I told you, the technologies, we have moved from 180 nanometer, then 90 nanometer, and currently we are somewhere around, if you talk about the state of the art processors that are present in your mobile, it will be somewhere around 5 nanometer or 7 nanometer, correct? So this is what the length of the MOSFET, that is the channel length of the MOSFET that you will be getting. This is just a rough number that I am telling you. When sir will teach you MOSFETs, you will be able to understand it very much clear. I am just telling, since we need to scale the MOSFET, we need to make it very small. Even this TOX is gonna get a smaller and smaller because we need to conserve the capacitance over there, right? Now if you use such a oxide which is having only this much length, there is going to be a huge leakage current through the gate, because ideally there should not be any current that should be flowing through the gate, right? Now you will be thinking like, what is the big matter? Let's say this leakage current is present, right? Like it is only a one transistor, right? That leakage current will be present, it will be in some nanoamperes or it will be in very small value. But now just remember, in your processor, right, there are billions of transistors, correct? There are billions of transistors that are present. So if your one transistor is having this much leakage current, just imagine if you multiply it with the billions, that number will turn out to be in some amperes or even in milliamperes or amperes, right? So what does this mean? You don't do anything, correct? You don't do anything. What is gonna happen? There is gonna be some leakage from the gate to semiconductor, right? There is going to be, whenever you apply some voltage at the gate, there is always going to be some leakage current that will be present apart from the current that you want actually, right? So this is the leakage current that you will be having, and what is going to happen, your processor will consume more power. So because this leakage current component will be significant now, what is going to happen is like, let's say your mobile used to last for 10 hours without any charging, right? So now because of this leakage current, your mobile will last only for 5 hours, right? So now this is why it is very important that as you move in such a smaller technology nodes, you should not have such a low thickness, because your leakage current component will be becoming higher and higher. So to prevent that, that's why we moved to HFO2 or some higher dielectric oxides, so that we prevent this leakage current, because our oxide thickness is now 4 nanometer instead of 0.6 to 4 nanometer, right? There is almost an order of magnitude difference over there. So it will prevent the tunneling by a huge factor, and the leakage current component, even if it exists, it will be very small value. So I hope this concept was clear to you, because this is the current trend, that why are we replacing the silicon dioxide. Guys, if you have any doubts, then please ask me. I am done with my questions, so I will be happy to answer any questions if you have. Guys, any questions? Was this concept clear? Why are we replacing SiO2 with some high dielectric? Then the barrier height will be more. Let me see the question. Then the barrier height will be more. The barrier height. Yeah. Let me think about it. Correct. The EC. You're talking about the barrier height means you're talking about the difference between the EC and DV. It depends on the material also, right? The difference of the EC and EV of the EG, the band gap that you are seeing of the different insulators. I don't know what is the band gap for the HFO2. It's again an insulator. I don't remember the number exactly. It depends on the material. Okay, yeah, great. Guys, any more doubts? Any questions? Oh. Anything that was not clear? Okay, the last chance to ask any questions. So after that, I will close the session since we are already 15 minutes ahead of our time. The last chance to ask any questions. Guys, do you have any doubts?
No, sir.
No? Okay, great. Thank you so much, guys, and sorry for ruining your another Sunday. So have a great evening ahead, and please enjoy your Sunday. Thank you, guys. We will close the session now.
Thanks for your sir. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.